Okay, so this map reminds me a little bit of Cache in that you can't split either site without mid control. So on this site, you want to split through like A main and door, right? So in order to do that, you need mid control. And same thing on B, you want to split through tunnel and B main. So in order to do that, you need mid control. Unless you want to come all the way up here elbow, but then you're gonna be risking if they have mid control for them to shoot you in the back from bottom bit if there's a guy playing like this angle, for example. Um, the only exception to this on Cache, you can commit yourself all the way to the extremity and like split A through Squeaky, which is risky, but maybe doable. But if you get spotted at any point, right, then then the push fails. Similar to on this side, you can commit yourself all the way through halls. Also really risky and it takes a long time. And if you get spotted, like if there's a trip here, you're screwed. Um, and it's really difficult to split the site from here anyway, because like these sight lines, even though they're great because you're behind them, unless you have people like already here and ideally someone door, you're not really going to get like a proper split. And you're also committed to an extremity, so well, I know it's not like technically an extremity, but because it's like isolated from the rest of the map, it functions like an extremity. um so okay, so you want to take mid as attackers, and it's not that hard to take it either. So the barriers come down. You have a smoke for this or something to cut off the sight line. You can already swing to take this angle, which I think favors you. I mean, it's 50-50. Obviously, if they have an op, then it doesn't favor you. But if there's a rifler here taking this fight every time, I think you should always take it. Because even as a 50-50, like, if you get this pick half the time, like half your T rounds, you're gonna be a man up, and they're gonna be spread thin with no one watching door, right? So it's highly unlikely, unless they're making a play through door, like a sky flash dash out, someone goes through shoot something like that, that you're gonna get contested off the rip for this angle. So you can usually kind of walk all the way up here, and even if they do like go for a play, you have cover. So it's quite easy to get all the way up here as T side. There's no way for them to deny you. And then once you're here, you can like jiggle nest. You can make sure there's no one like pushed up mid. You can even hold this angle for a while, to, like for the guy to like cross. And you can always like make sure there's no one door. You have like pretty good sight lines here. Obviously, if you're gonna expose yourself to the site, you have to be careful. But once you make it to this type of angle where you've cut off the rotations perfectly, you can play for sound. You can hear where they're going. So, and you can split the site. So you can leave one here, have two people come up. Viper smoke comes up. You split through door. You split through a main at the same time. You coordinate it. Or you can smoke the door and walk them all the way up elbow. Make sure there's someone holding this. You've got a guy like who's already like come up here and clear this. Make sure there's someone there, so you're not gonna get like surprised by a guy here. You just have to make sure there's someone swinging. Deny nest control with something like a smoke, and then split beside, right? So I think that's kind of how the map is going to play. Um, for these site splits, because I think it's gonna be really hard to go through the chokes, and it's gotta depend on how what agents are being run here as well. But I think you're gonna get like really heavy stall agents, because when you want to push through these chokes, you're taking these like really long range fights, which don't really favor you, because they could be sitting like anywhere with an op, right? Like any of these long sight lines, they could have a crossfire like right through. They could have a crossfire like here. I mean, they won't, but like there's potential for anything to happen here, where they could be playing like any of these angles, um, where with an op, with a rifle, with contact plays, with utility. So like pushing all the way through with one choke is going to be really hard, and it's going to be a test I think for a lot of teams to see if they can find like creative comps and utility for them to be able to stall and put and stuff the push, which I think won't even be that hard. Um, but okay, so what do you do for that if you're the defense? Well, one thing that I think is going to be really strong on this map, I'm not sure yet. It kind of depends on how the meta plays out and whether people figure out that you can use a lot of utility to stuff this choke. Is that I think you can, first of all, you can like smoke this off. Like the Viper could just aim here and throw her orb, and usually just smokes window perfectly and bloom it. And you've got two people starting here, so okay, you have two people starting on each site because you want to stuff the push, right? So let's say you've got like Jet here and I don't know, like Viper, which makes some sense. Sage, Astra, double controller, and then Sova mid, Sova floating, right? So Sova's like starts halls to make sure there's no one there, and he can like float mid, right? So this guy mid is floating and has information utility. Um, so now obviously it's quite easy to, you can imagine how how you can stuff these bushes. You've got slow, you've got wall, you've got Astra suck, you've got like Viper molly, you've got an opper. So you can stuff the push pretty easily off the rip, even if they're trying to 5-man you. Not to mention the leans are going to be easy when we get to that. Um, So let's say you're playing Viper Jet on this site. One thing you can do is you can have one person like holding this, like with an op or a rifle, doesn't matter. And then you can start walking up, and then this guy can like jiggle this site as soon as the barriers come down. So like that, kind of jiggle, and this other guy's holding his window. And you can start walking up. And also, obviously you can start the other way around where you hit the Viper smokes window, so you don't have to worry about it at all. And then swings this, and then you've got a guy elbow here, kind of ready to play off contact. But I think the key is going to be something here. So like, let's say like an Astra suck, like you know how on Haven, people eventually figured out, oh, you can play really oppressively here towards A lobby. Like you can like throw this utility, have the dart, and then walk players up, right? You can walk players up close. Not to mention, and then once you've done that, you can cheat off, right? So, on Haven, something that's really common to do is if you can walk your Jet up with the op, and then she's like holding down this sight line with an operator, you can cheat off a site and you can start leaning towards B, right? Because she has this information. They're never going to be able to contact on A without going through the Jet. So it's very similar on Breeze, where if you have control over this, over this sight line. So let's say, like, for example, you walk a guy all the way up here, like this angle's pretty disgusting. You can play even wider if you want. And once you have a guy like in this angle, you can just leave the site. Like you can leave the site completely, because this guy, if they're gonna jump down window, you can hear them, and there's no way for them to like enter towards the orb or flank through elbow without you hearing them. So, like, provided the rest of you can are playing towards mid, or towards mid and A, like there's no way that this guy, like there's no way for them to be able to like split B here easily, because you have all this information. Not to mention you can make a contact play here. Like if you're watching this angle, like you've got a guy like sitting here watching this angle on contact, and you've got this guy sitting here with a flash. As soon as you contact, you can swing, kill at least one, that kind of thing. So you've got a lot of potential to make stuff happen, like through this joke, if you use your utility properly. I've even seen on this map, like in Pugs, I've seen people I've seen Sovas throw a dart here or here all the way from mid. So I think people are already starting to figure it out. And then you want to ask yourself, how do you want to play the rest of the map, right? So, it depends. It depends on what on their default, right? Which I assume they're going to default here. So we already talked about what happens if they push. So what happens if they try to default, and how are you going to lean on this map? Because if they're defaulting A, you don't want to like be a slave to these long rotations. These rotations suck, and we all know that. So kind of like Cassius, a lot of rotations respawn suck, and you don't want to just like full rotate like that. Play with no information back here. Doesn't make sense. So instead, like you want to lean. Let's say A, for example. That's pretty easy. You already have a guy like Hall, so all this Jet has to do is come in and pick up mid from this angle. And that's pretty easy to do as well, because once you're sitting in tunnel and you have this angle, you have both elbow and you have door, right? Unless you get smoked off. But then once you get smoked off, then you can start playing more aggressively for that information. So you can you can walk all the way across, take these fights, maybe end up in this type of angle type thing. But provided you don't get smoked, you've got both. You've got this and you've got elbow from here, or you could like also do it from nest. Like you're not committed to this one angle. You could do it from a couple of places where a well-timed jiggle can kill the lurker if he's walking up here. So for your lean here. Whoops, sorry. So for your lean, you've got this type of thing going towards A, where this guy's got your door as well, so you don't even need to worry about it unless there's like there's a smoke, in which case you can wall it or something, and then you can focus everything on the choke. And this guy still has the Hall push, and you don't even really need to commit yourself like all the way Halls. Like you can, like if you really want to like be cheeky Halls and always take these aggressive fights with like Arena or something, who's like actually playing for like active Hall control and trying to get all the way up to shoot, like to this type of angle where they have to clear her and she has information and a fast flank because of this aggressive information. You can do that a couple of times and then they become annoyed. But generally you're going to be playing Hall from back here somewhere. You don't really need to peek past this angle. If they're going to open the door, you're going to hear them open the door, right? You can play pretty much anywhere here, like behind the door, like here, down left side, like all the way. Like you can pretty much do anything for this Hall, for this Hall push. And on like a heavy default, this is kind of what your lean's gonna look like. You just have to watch out for the guy like lurking through here or here. So okay, let's say they start leaning B, and their like default is like B heavy or leaning towards B. Then you've got this guy who can pick up mid from door, which again, this is a This is a pretty great angle because they can't cross on you unless they smoke you off again, which is why I think like the smoke is just gonna be meta. Like, and like just having something for this is gonna be meta. It's just gonna destroy like all these sight lines on this map and force them to play more aggressively for mid. So yeah, this guy can, you know, until they get punished by the smoke, can hold these sight lines, like towards mid, like this way, and you could even be assisted by. So this guy's still got halls, right? So you've got more of this kind of thing, or if you prefer, this guy can come up this way and this guy can pick up halls. So let's say this guy gets smoked off, right? Let's say like there's a Viper smoke here, so you can't see, you can't really like, you don't have a lot going on. And you want to lean differently, you can have the guy come up towards nest. This guy can rotate, pick up the rope, and pick up halls here. And this is provided you're not running a Cypher or a Killjoy who can just trip this for info, so you don't even need to play anyone there. Or you can stage wall it if you really want. And then, you know, the lean comes in similarly, where these guys are holding the sight, holding the choke, having a crossfire. This guy has their elbow, and is also kind of watching mid type of. And then this guy's, you know, it's got double duty because they could split you door still if the smoke is, you know, if the smoke is up. But otherwise, if the smoke's not up, then you don't even really need to worry about your door. You're just holding for the lurker coming through a main from, you know, any of these angles, right? So it makes leans easier. It's just like my opinion, always like the way you're playing mid. For like always active mid control, it's easier for you to lean on these sites. It's easier for you to rotate quickly. You can even, if you have active mid control, like if their default's really passive and they're giving you like all of these angles, so they're giving you this, they're giving you like this angle. So the Viper, or let's say it's the Killjoy, doesn't matter. So the Viper's like walking up here. You know, there's no one hall, so they're giving you they're giving you all of this as well. So this guy's not needed mids. They're giving you all of this, and this guy's like playing close door. So you have, this guy knows he can't get flanked from elbow, right? So he can walk all the way up. He can like play here. He can like play close with a crossfire towards the stage. You know, it just makes your rotations so much easier because now you're already ready to rotate to either side. If they like cancel and start going A, then you know you just like you pick up haul over going towards B. Sorry, you know, you haul over to B. This guy has early contact. It's just a nightmare for them, right? It's obviously a best case scenario, but you get what I'm saying. Like this mid control allows you to do these really fast rotations. You don't have to rotate all the way through the spawn. You always have active information. The leans are easier, and you can still play for the rushes for like the sight hits early. So as long as you remember that this guy's floating, and that depending on what they're doing mid door, you can always you always want to be playing for like information here and here. But the way you're playing for information here is usually through this, right? And then as long as you have like this, then there's no way for them to split you from tunnel because this guy's got the rest of the sight line. So that's basically how I see it.